So whenever I hear people make this argument that The Last of Us Part 1 didn't need a sequel, alright, yeah, you know what, I roll my eyes, because nothing needed a sequel, okay? It's a video game, it's a product, yes, it's a piece of art, but it is also a form of business commodity. When something makes money, you get a sequel, okay? And it's not a matter of, oh, it didn't need or wasn't built for a sequel, it's, was the sequel any good? And people are talking about the huge disparity between critics and users, and obviously that's existed for a while, but with this game particularly. And I guarantee you about half of those people didn't play the game, they just read the leaks online with spoilers without context, and they just got really mad and then they just review bombed it. 25% of those people probably played the game and then quit at the 2-hour mark. 10% of those people played the game, probably quit at the halfway point when you start playing as Abby, and then all the other ones are probably legitimate reviews. And all these users are getting labeled as racist, bigots, homophobes, transgender phobes, Asian phobes, xenophobe, misogynistic, white supremacists, and while I am all of those things, most gamers are not. Multiple things can be true at once, right? Naughty Dog lied. They falsely advertised this game. There are shots in the trailers that are nowhere in the game or are altered in the game. They are trying to make you think Joel is in this game longer than he is. They are also trying to hide the fact that Abby is in the game as much as she is. They make some mind-numbingly stupid decisions in this game, where you're just like, what in the ever-living hell were they thinking? Also, this game takes some groundbreaking steps forward that I have never seen before done. These things are not mutually exclusive, in the words of Ben Shapiro.
Ben Shapiro, sponsored by ExpressVPN. My friends at the Pearl Source, I trust them with my kids.
One of those groundbreaking ways was graphics, visuals. Oh my god. This is the most incredible looking game I've ever seen. I do not understand how they do this on PS4. It runs in 1080p, 30 FPS, and I cannot imagine what it looks like in 4K. Ellie scrunches up her face when she stabs somebody. When you stab somebody, there is a squirt of blood from the hole, and then they gurgle, you can hear them gurgling, and then they spit more blood out their mouth. It's unbelievably, disgustingly awesome. This game blurs the line between movie and game in a way I've never seen before. Ellie doesn't just lean forward and push a button. She like rests her hand on something, then she taps it with her fingers and plays with it and like leans back. It's insane. And you can't just shrug that off as they went all graphics and no gameplay, okay? There is a certain level of attention to detail and authenticity here that it's something that won't be for everyone. And where I said in my last video that The Last of Us 1 kind of strides the line between authenticity and gameplay well, The Last of Us 2 definitely leans forward into authenticity and realism. Your controls are a little slower, they're a little more deliberate, but it does bring the immersion up so much higher. And again, it's not perfect. It has some of the same issues that I had in Last of Us 1, but the best thing about this game is the settings. If you don't want it to be super immersive, you can turn nearly everything off. You can turn off how much your gun wobbles when you aim. This is another step forward for video games. This game has the most groundbreakingly in-depth settings systems I've ever seen, including my forays into PC gaming, including a full controller remapping. There's an FOV slider in a console game, for hell's sakes. The difficulty, too! It's like Naughty Dog heard my first video a day after the game came out. Literally, I got exactly what I asked for. You can alter the difficulty by player health, ally aggressiveness, enemy aggressiveness, how unsuspecting they are, and how available the resources are. So what I basically did is I played with the resources on very, very, very low, and I played with everything else kind of normal, but I also made them a little more forgiving in terms of stealth, because I don't want to crawl around in the grass forever. These zombie escape sequences are so well done. It's a way in how they design the levels to where you can kind of make, you're forced to make a split-second decision, and then you pick one, and then they throw more zombies at you, and you go the other way. You're kind of writing the cutscenes yourself.
This way! Hurry! Fuck! Go right! Come on!
Now, the non-linear style provided a very odd problem that I shouldn't be complaining about, and where the, oh, you're given more freedom. That should be a good thing, right? But the way this game has you kind of scavenge for everything and go around and explore, I'm like, crap, did I miss something? And I have like that OCD of I basically go back around the second path to make sure I got everything, especially when you play with your resources on scarce, which I recommend you do because it makes the survival horror aspect that much stronger, and it makes the decisions to whether or not to pull the trigger or wait for a better shot that much more impactful. And the detail and the graphics are so good, when the atmosphere and the lighting and the fog and haze effects and the music and the ambiance are there, I really, really enjoy just kind of slowly, methodically exploring the game world. And it's very satisfying to the OCD, except, again, when you run into two kind of doors, and one of them opens to the next level and locks behind you, and one of them doesn't. And it does get a little confusing sometimes to tell. The graphics are so damn good that the glint on the items to show you there's an item is very easily mistaken for just a shine off the wall, so I end up double-taking a lot when I'm exploring. Exploring through this kind of desolate, destroyed, apocalyptic world kind of filled one of the voids I had that Fallout 4 had left. There's way too much dirty-ass swamp water, too. I can't... Well, it's disgusting. See Ellie's face go in there, she's got her eyes open underwater, and it's getting all this algae and shrimp-ass shit in her eye. Gross. I'm not going to show you any footage here because I want to spare you that painful experience. The game notes in the world, very often you do have to read, because they have codes on them for puzzles and for saves. And at first I was very, very angry, as I was with a lot of things. The first 2 hours of this game are rough, but once I calmed down, you know, broke a lot of shit, threw a lot of shit in my room, I came back, took a deep breath, and I tried the game again. I enjoyed it a hell of a lot more, taking my time with it, you know? Part of the fun of the exploration is when you find all these little notes in the stories, you have all this visual storytelling that's so damn good, and Dina and Ellie will comment on it, and they'll chat back and forth. I really like Dina.
What went down here? Looks like an ambush.
Check out the bullet holes on the side of this truck.
Probably our WLF friends.
Makes you think about the soldiers who were just doing their jobs and then boom.
Part of the job, I guess.
The dialogue is a little hard to hear, though, sometimes, even with the dynamic range and all the options settings. It does get easily overpowered by other sounds in the game. And the puzzles didn't bother me as much this time, because there was a little thinking to them when they add the rope system for exploration. The hints, even if you get stuck on them, you can turn the hints on and off in the settings menu. Again, this game's settings menu solves most problems that most people will have with the game, except the story. You know, and you come across these guitars a few different places in the game, and this mechanic is so good. This is a simple, extra little thing that I shouldn't have enjoyed as much as I did. You have a fully working guitar in the game, and they actually use the touchpad. They fully animate Ellie's fingers, and you can hear it perfectly, and then she sings after you do the song. It's beautiful. It's beautiful watching Ellie serenade her lesbian, gay-ass girlfriend, Dina.
Talking away, I don't know what I'm to say, I'll say it anyway. Today's another day to find you shying away.
That acoustic, rustic feel to the game from the first one is intact in that regard, and I loved it. I personally prefer fighting the zombies a lot more than I did the people, because I don't like it when the people shoot back. The zombies don't do that for the most part. And I enjoyed exploring these spooky underground areas for a lot of the same reasons I did Resident Evil 7. The gun porn, too, is great. I love it when you go to the workbench, again, where Ellie will flick a switch, she'll turn on the light, and she'll eject a magazine, she'll open the action of the gun, she'll rest it on the table, and you can pick it up and inspect it and look at it. The upgrade tree itself for the guns is rather minimal. It's pretty much the same as it was for Last of Us 1, especially after Call of Duty Modern Warfare's Gunsmith. This all seems very, very simplistic by comparison. Also, though, don't upgrade the grips. If you upgrade the grips in the pistol, it looks black and ugly, and you lose that rustic look. Oh, I hate it. I hate it. I wish it would show you this before. I ended up saving the game before the crafting stations in case it made an upgrade to the gun that I didn't like. How it looked was more important to me than what it actually did in the game. The crafting itself, too, is relatively the same. Nail and the smoke bombs just got renamed. They do the same things, pretty much. You can craft arrows now, so that's cool. And the upgrade tree now, too, I think is really lame because it's all structured, so you have to find the magazines in the world, which is cool. Again, another reason to explore. But the way that they have it, it's levels. It's linear. If you want the skill at the bottom, you have to get all 5 skills in front of it, essentially, and I don't like how that's structured. The one thing you can't upgrade, though, for some reason, is your max inventory on parts. I mean, you can upgrade your max inventory on items in the skill tree, but you should be able to basically either find a bigger backpack or a fanny pack, or she can get a big hat that she can stuff shit in. I don't know, but you need to be able to upgrade your max inventory. So especially when you're going through all this effort to explore and grab all the pieces, and again, it breaks that immersion feeling where Ellie's only got 12 magnum rounds in her revolver and she leaves 2 more behind. Like, you would never ever do that. They added a melee dodge to the combat, which is everything Dark Souls' influences know no bounds, I see. And you can now go prone and stealth. It's a very simple thing that they now have to redesign the levels around, so you can go under trucks, you can hide in the tall grass, you can sneak up on people. The melee weapon variety now is a lot better. It's not just a board of wood or a bat. There's hammers, there's wrenches. The shoulder swap too, again, Naughty Dog seems like they heard me. You can turn off the re-default and have it stick to whatever you want, but I realized what the real problem was is that in the third-person view when you're not aiming, is that does not always match. Ellie should shift left and right from the screen when you're just moving around the game world too. The combat in this game, oh man, I like it when my gunfights are a brief, very tense explosion of violence, and then they end, and then you go around picking up the pieces. Limbs fly off, people scream, people call each other's names. They are really pushing for that. These are people you're killing. You feel like you are killing. Mature 17 and up, man. That's the problem with the ESRB, is when they give this game the same rating as freaking Halo, Call of Duty.
Trespasser's gone. What? You seen anything? No. Cover this roof.
So we're going to get into the narrative and the story structure. I'm not going to spoil anything, even that early thing that happens early on, so I still want this to be spoiler-free. Unlike Naughty Dog, I am not going to hide from you the fact that you play as Abby for about a third of the game. But before that, oh man, Ashley Johnson. Holy hell. Give this girl a raise. I don't know how much she was paid. I don't know how much her check was. I certainly hope it was bigger than Troy Baker's. Everything they do with Ellie in this game, regardless of how you feel about why they're doing with Ellie what they're doing in this game, I loved. Whereas The Last of Us Part 1 had you kind of feel emotional and sad about all the bad things in the world that were happening around you that you were perhaps powerless to affect. Last of Us 2 goes a different route. You know, Neil Druckmann, one of the only true thing he said about this game is when he says it's about hate and not about love. It's about the converse of that. It's about the feeling bad and depressed about the things you yourself end up doing as Ellie. There is torture. There is graphic, brutal, gruesome violence, more so than usual. And with Ashley Johnson's amazing performance, and with Gustavo Santaolalla Wenda's amazing soundtrack, these cutscenes and these effects, they hit hard. The tone they're going for comes across clear and loud. You know, and the writing of the dialogue itself and how they direct the actors is not the problem here. You know, everything I said in the last review about legitimate disagreements, all that shit is still here. They feel like real people reacting to things in real ways. As rough as it was to get through the first 2 hours of the game, the way the story was unfolding, by the time I got to the end of Ellie's quest line, if you will, I was really invested. I was really excited to see what was gonna happen next. And then, I do not know what the fuck Naughty Dog Neil Druckmann was thinking. You play half of this game as Abby. I did not play Last of Us to play as Abby. I did not buy The Last of Us Part 2 for $60 to be blindsided by blatant false advertising and lies. What the fuck were they thinking? So you got this She-Hulk Hulga running around who is a complete moral piece of shit.
You're a piece of shit, Abby.
Abby's the villain of the game, alright? They try to humanize Abby, and they try to make you empathize with Abby. It feels like a disconnected DLC. It's boring, it's slow, it comes out of nowhere. Abby's ugly, she's fucking hideous. I did not understand, and if you're gonna show somebody else's perspective, why in the hell not Tommy? Tommy's the one going on a killing spree that you're following, and you see what he left behind him, right? If you're gonna do this horrible, blatantly terrible split narrative decision, why not show us what Tommy's really doing when he's not afraid Ellie's gonna see him do it? Right when you're done with Ellie, it cuts off on a cliffhanger, and it makes you play through the last 3 days again as Abby. It is one of the stupidest things I have ever seen seen in my entire friggin' short, depressing life. Her entire questline with the cult had absolutely nothing to do with Ellie. It could have been cut from the story, and it should have. The sucky thing is Abby actually has a couple really good missions in her thing. There's a cool Bloodborne-style boss battle, and there's a freaking tower that's all destroyed that you're exploring. Those were great sequences. Why can't I play them as Ellie? The character I like, the character I know, the character that's on the freaking box of the game! The time they take to show these sex scenes, like, I know what I bought Last of Us 2 for. I wanted to watch Neil Druckmann's face on a tranny get rammed up the ass. That's what I paid $60 for. While the attempt at moral relativism failed horribly, the overall theme of revenge and forgiveness, I did actually enjoy. There's a lot of moral value in the ending of this game. Here's how you fix The Last of Us Part 2. You tell the entire story in order, because there's so many friggin' there's literally flashbacks within flashbacks. You can't tell if somebody knows something that they know in the game yet, because it's told out of order. It's just a pretentious attempt at being Christopher Nolan, and it makes it harder to read and understand your story. Fucking Abby. The fuck. And the more they force Abby on you, the harder it becomes to buy that this is a piece of art. The harder it is to give Naughty Dog the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, I'm just experiencing a story. They're not taking a side. They're not telling me what I should do. They're just showing me content and they're letting me decide for myself. The lesbian shit didn't bother me. The tranny shit bothered me. The lesbian, because I've met 4 real life lesbians in my life, okay? So you can just say, hey, you don't have to agree with their life choices, but that is a real thing in the world that happens, and we're going to use that to tell a story. Okay, sure, fine. You know, the lesbian thing by itself I can buy. When you throw a gender fluid person in there, when you throw in a real trans person in there, when you throw in this ridiculously cartoonishly She-Hulk Holga Abby Strong, I get very suspicious. It gets a lot harder to ignore the fact that they're obviously pushing a left SJW woke agenda in your face. And that's what's so infuriating about this game, is that if you cut all that shit out, if somebody at Sony had just sacked up and told Neil Druckmann, how about no? How about you don't play politics with our most golden respected franchise ever, they would have had another slam dunk, because everything with Ellie in the game is phenomenal. And my badass poor little baby girl who's all grown up, and that tattoo on her arm is badass, and she's got jacked forearms. See, here's the great thing though, is that if I want to play it again, I can just skip past the Abby part entirely, because I can chapter select. Ellie is given justice by the end. I do not think they disrespected Ellie as a character. Now, if you're able to look past the Abby shit, which is really, really, really bad, to enjoy the Ellie stuff, which is really, really, really good, then yes, I'd say the game is worth playing. So if they make a Last of Us Part 3 and Abby's nowhere to be found, yes, I would play a Last of Us Part 3. Although now we know we can't trust Naughty Dog and say, oh, don't worry guys, Abby's not in Part 3, psych! And remember, this is what happens when you glorify a game developer. It's just a company, it's just a bunch of people, they make good decisions, they make bad decisions. It is a business. Don't forget that. But yeah, it's a shame. It's a damn shame. It's just a video game. What am I getting so worked up about?
Take